Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now, many of you have already saw the story where the white woman basically accuses a teen of stealing her phone, and now she is claiming that she was assaulted. Okay, at this stage in the game, I think it's very important that we begin to analyze and look at every situation with clear eyes. How do we move about? How do we navigate through situations such as this? Now, some cases or situations, we're starting to see a little bit of justice, but it's only after a lot of noise is made. And it's also after realizing that people that are near or involved in these situations initially took the sides of someone who was actually a perpetrator. Okay. But in these situations such as this and many more, we've got to learn how to take away what we can learn from these situations. All too often, most of what we do or what we see others do is we complain about these situations and we show our frustration about these situations, and we try to get people to sympathize with us in these situations. Now, I understand that is a very natural and normal response because you're like, I want justice and I want people to stop looking at me a certain way. And I want people to start looking at the Karens and the Beckys of the world and the Brads for who they really truly are. But if we begin to understand that that just might not happen on a large enough scale to matter, then maybe we will start to analyze these situations a lot better and see what we can take away from them. What can we get positive out of these situations? Well, for me, there is a number of things that I can see. First and foremost, now that there is this claim of being assaulted, when clearly we see that this is a woman who is raging and lunging and grabbing and pursuing these people, instead of allowing them to be the first to say that they felt threatened, you put forth that narrative first, because who knows? You see, now someone can say, well, how can two men feel threatened by a 22-year-old white female? Well, then this is where you will bring in cases such as the one where there was a very young white female who pursued a middle-aged black man because of an incident that she had nothing to do with. And this woman actually took his life. Okay. She inserted herself into something that had nothing to do with her, and she took his life. So it doesn't matter if someone is young and petite and white or black. It doesn't matter. They can be a threat. Bring up the cases where there have actually been very young, violent children who have taken the lives of others, teenagers who have taken the lives of others. Don't allow them to spin the narrative always in their direction, because at first she was claiming that her phone was stolen. Now she's claiming that she was assaulted. You make your claims as well. She assaulted you. But see, now she's coming out with a claim first. Not that it's going to go anywhere because the evidence is on the phone. On the video. The evidence is on the video where everyone is seeing how she is raging after you, after your son. She is the one raging. And if someone comes charging at you, you don't have to say, well, she's a female, or she's 22 years old, or she's white, or she's black. This person charging at you could be a very, very present danger to you or to your son. Okay. In his statement, he did indicate that she scratched him and she did things to his son as well. So you put forth that narrative first, because there will always be those who say, oh my goodness, they assaulted her. They don't want to hear anything else. They just want to hear how they can spin this story to make her the victim and to make them the perpetrators. Okay, so that's one thing you can get out of it. Another thing I would say, that at this stage in the game, we should be past the point of saying or believing or thinking that because this is the year 20 whatever, or 19 whatever, because I was hearing this way back when in the 1900s, where our people were saying this is still happening in 19 such and such, 1997, 1998. We were still making statements that these kinds of things are still happening, as if we are just shocked by the fact that these things are happening. It's almost as if we think a 400-year history, or 400 or more year history, can be wiped away because we're getting into present time. Something that has been allowed to go on for so long, you have to understand that it is systematic, and it's almost in the DNA at this point by certain people. And so we shouldn't be shocked nor surprised that something like that is still happening, or something like this is still happening in 2020. We're going into 2021 right now, and these things are still happening. But we should stop acting as though we are shocked. Okay? I do get the anger and the frustration. I understand it. But here's another thing we can take from this. They are calling this Karening now. Okay? Because the Karens and the Beckys and the Brads are just flipping their lids. That should be highlighted more. The fact that, and get this. I'm not saying this out of any type of spite, because even people who look like them think that this is ridiculous. I'm talking about the Karens and the Brads who are out here doing these kinds of things. That needs to be highlighted for those who carry that particular spirit, those who allow that spirit to rest in them. That's a spirit. Of course, they're calling it Karening. That's what they're calling it. But we have to understand that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Okay? These people are acting out because there is an entity. And some of you aren't going to understand this or even believe it. But there is a demonic influence that is causing these people to do these things. Sometimes when you look at their body movements and their facial expressions and their over raging, they're just raging for small things, right? And they will even spew out lies that could mean the end of your life. Look at the guy who was in Central Park. I mean, this woman was right there. He was filming her, and she was changing her voice and saying that she was being attacked. And so she put on a certain act so that anyone who was hearing this, anyone who was in earshot, would think that she was in trouble. And even the 911 person she was speaking to, she needed them to get someone there quick, so that when they got there on the scene, there's a damsel in distress, and this black man is over her, and she's so frightened and afraid. So when they get there on the scene, they're going to pull up and do a Tamir Rice on him, where in 2 seconds he shot dead. This is what she was hoping for, you see. And so we've got to understand that we need to highlight the mental breakdown, the psychosis in all of this. That needs to be highlighted. Not only is that, psychosis would be the natural determination of what this all is, but the spiritual determination is the fact that these people are being controlled by demonic powers. That's what needs to be understood. Anytime you can do something that you know is going to or could possibly alter another person's reality, I don't care what color you are, black or white, when you do something, or in between, let me say that, black, white, or in between, because we believe that there are two races, black and white, and all those that fall in between are a mixture of the two. Maybe I'll get more into detail on that at a later date. We've kind of already covered some of it in our Whited Out documentary series. Some of you understand exactly what I'm talking about. And some of you say, well, no, that's not true, because you're looking at what you have been taught in the public school system. But anyway, we've got to learn how to deal with these situations a little bit different. As a matter of fact, I'm going to even say a lot different, because we're repeating the same cycle of how these things are reported and how we respond to them. It needs to be very clear, coming from us or anyone who is victimized by Karens. It needs to be made very clear that that person has psychological problems as well as demonic problems, right? Not to the point where they get off and someone say, well, they need help. It's not an issue of them needing help. It's an issue of them needing to pay for what they have done, being held responsible for their actions. They don't need to be coddled, you see, because sometimes people say, well, she's sick or he's sick. I mean, the fact that they're doing this shows that they have problems and that they're sick. And so they need help. Sometimes that help is for you to sit yourself behind bars just like anybody else. Sometimes that's the help you need. When you decide to allow demonic powers and entities to just run roughshod through your body, causing you to do things that's going to harm other people, you need to sit behind some bars too. And you don't need to get sympathy. You don't need to get sympathy because of the color of your skin. But unfortunately, these are the things that continue to happen. And so you see this Karen now, she goes from accusing them of one thing. Now she done spin off into something totally different because she's trying to see if she can garner some type of sympathy. And let me tell you right now, I already know, and many of you do too, I already know that there's somebody or a group of people or a lot of people who are sitting at their home, watching this on television, hearing all of the reporting of it, and they are in their minds. These are people who got demons too, okay? In their minds, they are trying to concoct a very realistic version of what I'm going to say realistic to them, okay? Realistic to them, not to everybody else. They're trying to come up with something that they can make appear realistic. They want to make it appear realistic, like this is what happened. This is how she is actually the victim and they are actually the perpetrators. They're trying to spin it around in their mind. See, it's no way to do it, but they come up with, or they concoct these elaborate scenarios of how to make this 22-year-old damsel in distress the victim and make them, the 14-year-old boy and his jazz musician dad, the perpetrators. There are those who really believe that there is a strong possibility that she is the victim. And this is because they don't want to see it any other way. It's almost impossible for them because there is a mindset that exists because of the demonic infiltration that they have allowed in their lives because of their racial biases. You see? Well, anyway, I am done analyzing this particular story. I just want us to start to learn how to deal with these situations a little differently and you know, kind of get out of the mindset of, oh, let's show them our frustration. Let's show their psychosis. Okay. And when we show our frustration, there should be a way that we can do that as well, so that we don't appear as though, how can I say this? We don't want to make it seem like it's causing us to go out of our minds because I can't believe they're still doing this. We got to get past that stuff. I understand the frustration, but I don't think we need to continue to allow that part to be just out there so much. Like we've allowed them to actually get into our minds in that way to where we feel like I just can't believe it. And I've even seen some of our people, both men and women, brought to tears over these things. If anything at all, I'd rather see the emotion of anger and not rage. When I say anger, I don't mean rage. I mean, in a sense of, now, you people have some real problems that you're going to have to deal with because you're not going to keep victimizing us. Okay. So there's a way to show anger. The Bible says, be ye angry and sin not. I don't think the rage should be what we put on display because they use that against you. But you see how Eric Garner's wife, when they asked if she forgave the people who did this to her husband, remember how she responded? She didn't respond in rage, but what she did do was send a very clear message. When they said, do you forgive the people who did this to your husband? She said, hell no. That's what I think we need to show more of, and not all of this disbelief Why are we in disbelief that these things are happening? I mean, it's been centuries that they have been happening. And so we need to highlight more. We need to highlight more of what's going on with them mentally and the spiritual deficiency. Okay, that's what needs to be highlighted more, and less of the rage that we are displaying. Okay, I hope I didn't confuse anyone with the whole anger versus rage and emotion thing. I think it's very normal to show, some type of anger from these things. But when we start raging and ranting about these things, they want to look at that and use it against you. They say anything you say can and will be used against you. This is where they get the whole concept of angry black woman from. If we respond to anything that happens to us, oh, we're so angry. We have a right to be, right? But then they affix that title to you as angry black woman. And get this, they think the same thing about black men. They think that you are angry and raging as if you don't have a right to be, right? But because of who we are dealing with, we're dealing with a system that was put in place to kind of draw out that rage in you and to highlight your anger in a way to where it appears as though you're about to pop or you're about to snap. If you change the way you display that anger and make it more, how can I say this? Make it more clear. Look, we are not going to tolerate this foolishness. Okay, here's another good example. I have another good example. Remember when the media was trying to, I think it was a Tatiana Jefferson, the case where the young woman was playing video games with her nephew. And the media began to try to put out narratives to try to make her into some type of suspect. They were starting to try to say little things here and there. Well, she this and she that. And remember all of those Christian pastors? This is a good example of how you can use your anger properly without looking like or acting like a lunatic, because this is what they're trying to get you to do so that they can say, see, this is what I told you. They're just some angry, raging, vengeful people. They want that narrative out there, even though we know that if the shoe were on the other foot, they wouldn't have any love and forgiveness for someone who just took their loved one's life. They wouldn't, okay, especially if that person were black. But anyway, those Christian pastors, when they started to hear and notice the tones of trying to make the victim some type of suspect, she was the victim in this, but they were trying to say certain narratives, put certain narratives out there to make her seem like she was in the wrong in some kind of way. Those pastors, they got on the news and they said, we will not let you demonize this young woman. You will not do that. That is something that you will not do. Now, listen, they didn't start cussing. They didn't start screaming and yelling, but that authority in their voices, and even the fact that they are Christian pastors, because see, Christianity is something they respect, right? The fact that they were Christian pastors and it was a group of them together, they said, we will not let you do this. That was a show of anger. But it was done in wisdom to where the news outlets, they shut it down trying to demonize her. They shut it down because of a righteous anger that was put on display. Not something where they can use against you and say, oh, you cussing, as if cussing ever killed somebody. You see what I'm saying? They try to make it seem like if you show a certain type of anger, then you're a danger. When they're Beckys and they're Brads and they're Karens, they can have a smile on the face, a smile on their faces, and be more dangerous than a person who's ranting and raving and cussing. But you have to understand what you are dealing with. This is why I say you have to get an understanding of how to navigate through all of this so that you don't fall victim to what they are trying to do. Unfortunately, a lot of our people, they won't adhere to this. They're going to keep on ranting and raving, thinking that you can say, I'll see you in court. Remember Sandra Bland when she was saying, I can't wait to see you in court. She said that as if she had some type of confidence that the system was going to work in her favor against an officer. She said that because she was under the illusion that this system was fair. But if you look at the track record of this system for the past few centuries, the past few hundred years, then you won't keep having these expectations of fairness. Anyway, unless, of course, I'm going to say this. If Yah be for you, who can be against you? Okay? I am done with this video. If you haven't already, I want you to subscribe to the channel. Of course, I want you to leave your comments below on this very subject. Leave your comments below. But if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. And please do share and like this video. With that, I'm out. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel. And also comment, share, like, and subscribe.